Just 5 days after Diane Keaton's death, her two adopted children, Dexter and Duke, hurried to the lawyer's office to stake claims on the massive estate. Shortly after, Diane's two biological sisters also spoke up, demanding a share of the inheritance, making the situation tangled and tense. The urgency and aggressiveness raised many questions. Was Diane's death recorded on the death certificate as pneumonia really that simple? In her final weeks, she lived in seclusion, lost weight, rapidly suffered persistent coughing, and a delayed emergency call was made. All suspicious points that sparked concern among fans. Diane had told friends, "I have never loved anyone more than my children." But now, with her children and sisters plunging into a battle over the estate, the words echoed like a bitter question. Was that love truly reciprocated, or merely a ticket to seize her enormous fortune? Unusual decisions in her final months, retreating from the public, quickly selling her Beverly Hills home, and reducing contact with friends raised speculation. Were these maneuvers to isolate Diane and create an opportunity to contest her $100 million estate? Let's explore all of this in the video. In the early morning of October 11th, 2025, Diane Keaton, the legendary American actress, was found in poor health at her private residence in Santa Monica, California. An emergency call was made, and paramedics quickly arrived, taking her to St. John's Health Center. However, despite timely medical attention, Diane passed away at the hospital at age 79. Her family announced the official cause as bacterial pneumonia, but immediately many fans and media raised unanswered questions. The story begins in the preceding months as Diane gradually vanished from the stage lights and social media. In the weeks before her death, she was reportedly showing clear signs of declining health. She was no longer seen walking through the tree-lined streets of Los Angeles, holding her beloved dog Reggie. A close friend revealed that her health had worsened since early 2025, when she was forced to leave Beverly Hills due to devastating wildfires. She moved to Palm Springs, a quieter location. But darkness seemed to be closing in. Why would a woman always full of energy, joy, and creativity retreat completely like that? Was she quietly facing another illness, one that her family and friends did not want to disclose? Pneumonia, according to doctors, is not an unfamiliar enemy. In older adults, it can strike quickly like a storm, especially when the immune system is weakened. Diane, at age 79, clearly fell into a high-risk group. But the strange thing was her rapid weight loss in the final weeks. She lost a lot of weight, a friend recounted somberly. Was this merely the consequence of pneumonia, or was there an underlying illness depleting her body? A 911 call on the morning of October 11th reported that she was found collapsed at home. Why did no one recognize her condition sooner? Had she been trying to hide warning signs? Looking back on Diane's life, it's clear she was no stranger to health battles. At age 20, she faced skin cancer, basal cell carcinoma, a consequence of unprotected sun exposure in California. Decades later, squamous cell carcinoma appeared, requiring 2 surgeries. She once shared with her signature smile that she had been too careless with her skin. Then there was bulimia, a painful secret Diane bravely disclosed in her memoir, Then Again. In her 20s, the pressure to lose weight for a Broadway role pushed her into cycles of uncontrolled eating and self-destructive behavior. 20,000 calories a day. She wrote, fried chicken, fries, sweets, then purging it all. Though she overcame this illness through therapy, she described herself as a recovering addict for life. From these 2 illnesses, it's clear they were not related to respiratory issues. So why was Diane's cause of death listed as pneumonia? Another detail fueling suspicion was the dream home in Beverly Hills that Diane hastily sold in early 2025. This was a place she had once called her forever home and spent years meticulously restoring. Fans and the media were surprised, as Diane was known for her endless passion for architecture and design, especially classic Spanish colonial revival homes. Her decision to abandon a space she loved so deeply prompted questions. Was this purely a financial choice, or were there other personal reasons? Some close sources suggested that Diane's rapid health decline may have forced her to sell the home. However, the family's secrecy regarding her condition sparked further speculation. Some wondered whether external pressures from personal relationships or even legal matters had pushed Diane to leave her beloved home. The sudden and mysterious nature of this decision created a significant gap in the story of her final days. Fans and media began to speculate. Had Diane known something about her future or faced an unexpected event that prevented her from staying in the house? The home, once a symbol of her style and personality, now became the focus of an unresolved mystery. After Diane's passing, the family quickly arranged her cremation and informed the public, but they refused to answer any questions about her health or preceding events. This secrecy led many fans and journalists to feel that something was being concealed. But everything truly erupted when her two adopted children, Duke and Dexter, rushed to meet lawyers immediately after Diane's death to contest the estate. Going back to Diane's 50s, when her film career was still brilliant with iconic roles in The Godfather and Annie Hall, she decided to embark on a surprising new chapter, becoming a single mother. Without marriage or a partner, Diane pursued motherhood through adoption. In 1996, at age 50, she welcomed her first daughter, Dexter, just months after her birth on December 15, 1995. It was a bold, emotional decision, with Diane later sharing that she had never imagined being ready for this role. But it changed her life forever. 5 years later, in 2001, Diane expanded her family by adopting her son, Duke, born February 8, 2000, when he was just over a year old. At 55, Diane raised the two children alone in her cozy Beverly Hills home, amid business trips and Hollywood glamour. Dexter and Duke grew up in their mother's loving care, shielded from public attention, only occasionally appearing at special events such as award ceremonies or film premieres. These moments, like the family photo at Dexter's 2021 wedding, always exuded simple warmth and closeness. Everything seemed perfect. But that facade was torn apart as soon as Diane passed. While the world mourned the Annie Hall icon, her two children stepped into an uncompromising battle over the estimated $100 million estate she left behind. What caused family bonds to fracture so quickly? Immediately after Diane Keaton drew her last breath on the morning of October 11, 2025, the atmosphere in the Beverly Hills home remained somber, full of grief. But within hours, another story began to unfold. Her adopted children, Dexter and Duke, rushed to Diane's lawyer's office. Their goal was to ensure their interests in the massive estate Diane left were protected. On October 16th, Dexter, an ambitious interior designer, left the office of a prestigious Los Angeles law firm carrying a thick bundle of documents. According to close sources, she declared she deserved the largest portion of the estate because she had been with her mother longer, since being adopted in 1996. Her main goal was the Brentwood house, the crown jewel of Diane's real estate holdings, renovated from the 2009 purchase at $4.7 million. Dexter argued that she had directly assisted her mother with renovation projects, learned her passion for architecture, and even contributed to the book The House That Pinterest Built. For her, the home was not only property, but a symbol of the special bond between her and Diane. A bond she believed no one could replace. Her younger brother, Duke, was not to be outdone. A young entrepreneur in the tech industry, he appeared at another law office in Santa Monica with old emails and messages exchanged with Diane. Duke believed he deserved the largest share of cash and film royalties, estimated at $40 to $50 million, including profits from movies like Something's Gotta Give and her 3 best-selling memoirs. He argued that Diane had financially supported his startup projects and had joked that Duke would continue my big dream. He demanded control over the trust fund Diane had established, believing it would help him build his own empire in line with the independent spirit his mother instilled. Although chosen by Diane for love, the bond between Dexter and Duke was fragile and now nearly broken. The source of discord, according to insiders, stemmed from the fact that both were adopted. Growing up in the shadow of a Hollywood star, Dexter, 5 years older than Duke, was often taken by Diane to events, sharing her passion for architecture, seeing herself as her mother's spiritual heir. Meanwhile, Duke, independent and business-driven, felt overshadowed, as if Diane's love for him was less profound. A family friend revealed that the two rarely had intimate conversations, even during holidays at the Beverly Hills home. "They don't hate each other," the friend said, "but they never truly loved each other like biological siblings." That distance now became a trigger, as Diane's estate became the only thing bringing them close. But not for reconciliation. The story grew more complicated when news surfaced that Diane had left a detailed will drafted in 2015 and last updated in March 2025, just before she sold her dream Beverly Hills home. The will managed through a trust named Dexter and Duke as primary heirs, but was unclear on specific allocations. Some close sources said Diane intended Dexter to inherit most of the real estate, while Duke received the majority of cash and shares from financial investments. The lack of clarity in distribution sparked controversy, with both believing they were more deserving. Soon after rumors about a donation Diane intended for the LA Conservancy, an architectural preservation organization she had supported for over 20 years, began circulating. Dexter strongly opposed, arguing her mother wanted to keep the properties as family heritage, not sell or donate them. She criticized Duke for only caring about cash and not appreciating the cultural value of the homes Diane had devoted her life to restoring. Conversely, Duke said Dexter was trying to hoard all assets to protect Mom's artistic legacy, while he needed funds to continue his tech projects. Tensions peaked when Dexter hired a private lawyer to review the trust, suspecting Duke had attempted to persuade Diane to amend her will in her final months, when her health was declining. Meanwhile, Duke was accused of contacting Diane's real estate partners immediately after the funeral, seeking to revalue properties in Laguna Beach in Arizona, even though they had already been sold. Dexter called this action unethical, while Duke insisted he only wanted to ensure everything was transparent and that no assets were overlooked. Each day was tense, filled with meetings, emails, and heated calls between Dexter and Duke. A close source revealed that the two had even nearly exploded at the lawyer's office. When accusations and arguments reached personal limits, it didn't stop there. If only the two adopted children were involved, dividing the estate might have been easier. But even Diane's biological sisters began to speak up. Just a few days after the funeral, Dory Hall, the youngest sister, around 75, appeared with an unexpected claim, a lesser-known actress, but always close to her sister. Dory asserted that Diane had promised to leave a portion of her estate to support her in her final years. She contacted a Los Angeles lawyer requesting to review the will updated in 2015 and amended in March 2025, suspecting Diane may have allocated something for her sisters that Dexter and Duke overlooked. Shortly after, Robin Hall, the third sister, around 73-77, also joined the dispute. Living quietly in Southern California, Robin rarely appeared publicly, but this time she broke her silence. Through a tense call with Dexter, Robin demanded a share of royalties from Diane's books, especially then again in Brother and Sister, where both Dory and Robin were mentioned as family supporters. She argued that she had cared for their brother Randy Hall for many years and deserved compensation. The battle became even more complicated when Dory and Robin began contacting Duke directly. At a meeting in Santa Monica, Dory bluntly demanded that Duke share a sum of cash, emphasizing that they were Diane's blood, not just adopted children. Duke, already tense with Dexter, felt cornered and argued that the trust clearly designated the two adopted children as the primary heirs, giving the sisters no legal rights. Dexter, meanwhile, was furious at Dory and Robin's interference. She accused the two aunts of jumping in only when they smelled money, emphasizing that Diane had chosen to raise her and Duke as the sole heirs. In an email to the lawyer, Dexter wrote that Dory and Robin had lived independent lives and contributed nothing significant to Diane's career or estate. She even suspected that Dory, once a member of the Actors' Equity Association, may have received financial support from Diane in the past, but now wanted more. Tensions escalated when Dory and Robin appeared together at a law office in Los Angeles, demanding full disclosure of the will. They questioned funds allocated to charities such as the LA Conservancy animal shelters and food banks the family had supported to ensure their shares were not redirected. Robin even called Dexter directly, voiced trembling but firm, requesting a family meeting to settle things like adults. Dexter refused, insisting that Mom chose us, not the aunts. Duke, though not close with Dexter, surprisingly sided with her in opposing Dory and Robin's demands. He hired an additional team of lawyers to protect his interests, arguing that Diane had established the trust to prioritize her two adopted children, not her biological siblings. However, this alignment was only temporary. As Duke still wanted control of the majority of cash, while Dexter insisted on keeping the real estate and art collection, the tense hours in the lawyer's office felt endless. Lawyers repeatedly reminded everyone that everything had to be based on the official will. But disagreements only made the division of assets more complicated. An insider revealed that arguments became so heated that on a few occasions Dory and Robin nearly grabbed each other to attack Duke, but were restrained in time. The most heartbreaking fact was that Diane, who wrote in then, again, that Dexter and Duke were everything to her, likely never imagined her beloved children would turn on each other so quickly. She had tried to raise them with love, but the fact that both were adopted at different times, with contrasting personalities and life goals, seemed to sow seeds of estrangement. Diane's close friends, like Jane Fonda, declined to comment on the controversy, quietly expressing regret that Diane would be very sad to know her children were fighting like this. After her death, Diane left an enormous estate estimated at around $100 million. This figure is based on earnings from her over 50-year acting career, production, directing, writing, and especially her passion for real estate, which yielded higher returns than her acting salary. Diane Keaton's assets primarily consisted of high-end real estate, making up the largest portion of her portfolio, estimated at over $50–60 million, from transactions that are in long-term holdings. She was renowned as a house flipper, specializing in restoring historic properties in California, focusing on Spanish colonial revival, mission revival, and mid-century modern styles. Notable assets included the main Brentwood, Los Angeles home, estimated at $20–30 million. A Laguna Beach property purchased in 2004 for $7.5 million, sold in 2006 for $12.75 million. A Pacific Palisades villa purchased in 2012 for $5.6 million, sold in 2016 for $6.9 million, and a Tucson, Arizona property sold in 2020 for $26 million. Additionally, she sold a Bear Villa in 2005 for $16.5 million, a Spanish colonial home in Beverly Hills, to producer Ryan Murphy in 2010 for $10 million, and another property to Madonna for $6.5 million. These deals were not only highly profitable, but also reflected her passion for architectural preservation, earning her recognition from Architectural Digest as the Queen of Hollywood House Restoration. Beyond real estate, Diane Keaton's remaining assets came from her entertainment career and diverse investments estimated at around $40 million. She earned millions from classic films like The Godfather, Annie Hall, Red's Father of the Bride, Something's Gotta Give, and The Family Stone, with an average salary of $510 million per major project. As a director and producer, she worked on music videos such as Belinda Carril's Heaven is a Place on Earth and television productions, generating additional steady income. Her 3 best-selling memoirs, Then Again 2011, Let's Just Say It Wasn't Pretty 2015, and Brother and Sister 2020, along with public talks and endorsement deals, contributed another $105 million. She also invested in photography and interior design, with her book The House That Pinterest Built, inspired by her Brentwood home, creating passive income from royalties and brand collaborations. Regarding investment strategy, Diane Keaton was notable for her long-term and preservation-focused real estate approach, starting in the 1980s, when she bought her first apartment in San Remo, New York. She rarely bought to sell quickly, instead spending years renovating, prioritizing forgotten properties at below-market prices, then selling at a profit due to increased historical value. She served on the LA Conservancy Board for 20 years, investing in preservation projects to prevent the destruction of architectural heritage. The fierce battle over assets between her 2 children only fueled growing suspicions. Was Diane's death truly due to illness? Or was there a cold-blooded plot by the very children she loved most? The hypothesis that Dexter and Duke may have harmed their mother to seize her estate sent chills down fans' spines as unusual details from her final months gradually emerged. In the last 5 months of her life, Diane almost entirely disappeared from public view. She was no longer seen walking with Reggie in Los Angeles, no longer posting cheerfully on Instagram, and had canceled all public events. Close friends told people that she withdrew to Palm Springs after leaving Beverly Hills due to wildfires, living in isolation with her adopted children Dexter and Duke. Not a single photo, not a single post. This silence was highly unusual for a woman as energetic as Diane. Had Dexter and Duke intentionally kept their mother in the dark, limiting outside contact to conceal her health or even to control her in her final days? Diane's death was publicly announced late, with the public only learning of it when the death certificate was released on October 16, 2025. A 911 call on the morning of October 11th reported she had collapsed at home. But why was emergency help delayed until then? Sources indicated Diane had lost significant weight and weakened in the preceding weeks, showing clear signs of illness, such as persistent coughing and shortness of breath. Typical pneumonia symptoms. However, there were no records of her visiting a doctor earlier. Did Dexter and Duke, her closest companions, deliberately delay medical care? Or did they ignore warning signs, knowing a sudden death would grant them access to the massive trust bacterial pneumonia? The official cause of death may not have been as straightforward as it appeared. Medical experts note that in older adults, pneumonia often develops from common infections, like the flu or cold. But it can also result from unusual factors, such as exposure to bacteria in a controlled environment. A chilling hypothesis is that Dexter and Duke, living with their mother in her final months, may have deliberately kept her in unhealthy conditions, such as neglecting hygiene or insufficient nutrition, weakening her body and making infection more likely. A friend of Diane recalled that she had lost a lot of weight before passing, suggesting she may not have been properly cared for. Moreover, the posthumous explosion of the estate battle fueled further suspicion. An insider revealed that Dexter and Duke rarely got along, yet both were fully aware of their mother's assets. Diane's unexpected sale of her dream Beverly Hills home in early 2025, while her health was declining, may have been due to pressure from her children to convert assets into cash for easier division. Another notable detail is Diane's mental health in her final months. She had struggled with bulimia and always considered herself a recovering addict for life. Could Dexter and Duke have exploited her psychological vulnerability, especially as she aged, to manipulate financial decisions? Some sources noted that Diane became withdrawn, communicated less with friends, and depended heavily on the two children. If they intentionally allowed her to weaken by withholding medicine, nutrition, or even applying psychological pressure, pneumonia may have served only as a final pretext, masking a long-term plan to ensure she passed before changing the trust. The biggest question remains motivation. Dexter and Duke, though loved and raised by Diane, grew up in the shadow of a Hollywood star. As adopted children, they may have felt pressure to prove themselves worthy of her legacy, both emotionally and financially. Dexter, passionate about interior design, wanted to keep the Brentwood house as a symbol of her bond, while Duke, a tech entrepreneur, needed cash to pursue ambitions. Could they have gone so far as to harm their mother to achieve their goals? There is no direct evidence, but the urgency of their estate struggle. Diane's isolation and the delayed emergency call are all suspicious pieces. Fans immediately gathered on Reddit, Twitter, and numerous social forums, sharing chilling theories. Many believe the actress's death was not simply pneumonia, but involved her two adopted children, Dexter and Duke. The theory is so plausible that anyone hearing it shivers. In her final months, Diane Keaton lived in seclusion at her Palm Springs villa, withdrawing from public events and almost exclusively interacting with her adopted children, Dexter and Duke. Both meticulously planned for months, leveraging Diane's trust and love. Dexter, passionate about interior design and attached to the Brentwood home, often cared for her under the guise of concern, while Duke, ambitious in business, regularly provided financial and investment advice, gaining Diane's trust. They began by controlling Diane's living environment. Meals were poorly prepared, lacking nutrition, while medications and health care were mismanaged. Diane grew weaker, lost weight rapidly, and fatigued easily, yet still believed her children were taking proper care of her. Dexter and Duke maintained an appearance of concern, but every action was calculated to slow her life and weaken her body. Gradually, they isolated Diane from friends and longtime colleagues. Her social life nearly vanished. Walks with Reggie, calls, and social media posts were restricted. The adopted children frequently reminded Diane of her frailty, that she needed to rest at home and avoid outsiders, making her entirely dependent on them. By September 2025, as Diane began showing clear signs of illness, persistent cough, shortness of breath, severe weight loss, Dexter and Duke maintained the plan. They did not call a doctor in time, merely monitored her condition carefully enough to ensure events unfolded according to their predetermined schedule. Whenever Diane complained of fatigue, Dexter offered false reassurances, while Duke handled documents and assets, ensuring all wills and trusts remained under their control. On October 11, 2025, Diane suddenly suffered severe decline. The adopted children executed the final step in the plan. A 911 call was made too late when her body was nearly immobile. By the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. The death certificate listed bacterial pneumonia as the cause, but in reality, it was the result of prolonged debilitation and a carefully controlled living environment orchestrated by Dexter and Duke. Immediately after her death, they plunged into a legal battle to claim Diane's massive estate. Their coordinated actions ensured everything proceeded smoothly. Assets were controlled, power centralized, and other family members, including Dory and Robin, were excluded from all decisions. Diane's biological sisters tried to claim rights from the trust, but Dexter and Duke flatly refused, protecting the estate and financial control. They had prepared in advance, knowing every necessary step to secure their share and remove obstacles from the family. Everything unfolded like a meticulously planned family crime. While fans still believe Diane Keaton passed due to illness, the reality is that every detail had been controlled by Dexter and Duke to ensure the ultimate goal. All assets fell into their hands. When it was over, Diane departed in silence, leaving a massive legacy to her two adopted children, as they had dreamed. The story became a perfect crime. No legal evidence, no clear trace. Yet everything occurred precisely as planned. Isolating Diane, weakening her body-controlling assets, and removing obstacles. If the hypothesis that Dexter and Duke caused Diane Keaton's death is true, the story is profoundly tragic. Diane, who chose to become a mother at 50, had devoted her heart and soul to her adopted children. She adopted her daughter Dexter in 1996 and son Duke in 2001. Not only providing them a home, but also ensuring the best conditions for a normal life away from Hollywood spotlight. The love Diane gave to Dexter and Duke was deep and sincere. She once said that motherhood was the humblest experience that completely changed herself and always tried to give her children a relatively normal life, avoiding unnecessary attention. If the painful theories on Reddit and social media are true, being betrayed by the very people she loved most to seize her estate would be a shocking blow. Chilling fans and everyone who admired Diane, the posthumous battle for Diane Keaton's estate remains a public focal point. Dexter and Duke, the two adopted children, plunged into tense negotiations with lawyers fighting for ownership from valuable real estate to cash investment shares and book royalties. Meanwhile, Dory and Robin, Diane's biological sisters, also entered the fray, demanding rights and compensation for years of family care and accompanying Diane throughout her life. Each believed they deserved the most, and every meeting and call made the family picture more complicated and tense. With sharp conflicts and questions surrounding Diane's will, the question many still ask remains unresolved. Who will ultimately inherit the actress's estate? Will the rights favor the two adopted children who lived with their mother for years, or the biological sisters who were close from childhood? Only time and court decisions can answer. For those interested in such drama-filled stories and wanting to follow the next developments of the Keaton family, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any updates.